name is Heather McGee, and this is the Happily Never After, a podcast that explores how life's endings can lead to a personal breakthrough. Because sometimes the end is just the beginning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Happily Never After, a podcast where we explore how life's endings can lead to a new beginning. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate, review, and follow us wherever you are listening or watching the show today. My guest is Esther Kim Varet. She is the granddaughter of immigrants who escaped North Korea on foot. Esther holds degrees from both Yale and Columbia. She is the founder and owner of the highly reviewed art gallery, Various Little Fires, and she is currently running as a Democrat to represent California's 40th congressional district. Esther is an entrepreneur, a builder, and a mom. And I love this little fact about you. She can also sometimes be found at regional rodeos barrel racing with her 8-year-old daughter. It's a little bit of the Texas coming out in you. I'm so glad to welcome you here.
Well, thanks so much for having me today, Heather. I'm very excited to be here.
Now, about a month ago, I, by accident, came across a reel on Instagram of all places that featured you talking publicly about your abortion story, and it really left a big impression on me. And so I wanted to invite you to come on so we could really talk about it. Can you share some of that personal story with our listeners?
Yeah. So it was at a candidate forum actually for the office that I'm running for right now. I'm running for Congress specifically to flip a seat from Republican to Democrat because we need to win back the House. I'm somebody that is just a normal citizen. I tell people I Googled how to run for Congress, and here I am a year and a half later. So I don't come from a background of being highly trained as a politician. I really just speak from my heart. I speak through my experiences, and I know why I'm fighting. And so much of my fight, as it should be for a lot of people, is based on the evidence of their own experience. And in that, I got up in front of a large crowd and told my abortion story. I had an abortion at 21 and 41. So at two very different times in my life, right? And in that, when people ask me, oh, wait, you had an abortion at 21 and 41? What was the difference between those two things? And, yeah, I think people have questions. My first answer is none of your effing business.
Yeah.
Literally, my story is my story, and you do not probe unless I'm open and willing to talk about it, which I am. And my whole point of illustrating this is that there's so many reasons why women have abortions, right? Like
Yeah.
the statistics are 1 in every 4 women in America before the age of 45 have had an abortion.
Yeah.
That is an amazingly big number, which means it's your neighbor, it's your school teacher, it's your mom and your sister. I don't care if you live in a red state or a blue state, like literally women all around you, and they could be sitting in the pew next to you at church, like have had stories of why they made a decision for themselves. And so I felt like it was important to illustrate that at a time when so many rights for women and our autonomy on over our own bodies is being rolled back through really patriarchal ideologies of religion. I mean, I really do think it's a religious war that's happening, and I know it because I grew up in Dallas, Texas, going to a Christian school for 13 years of my life.
Yeah.
I was born and raised Southern Baptist. Like I haven't always been pro-choice. When I was younger, I mean, even in high school, I think you are taught abortion is a sin. Now, that kind of language, abortion is a sin, is something that if you break it down is related to your religious ideology, how
Yeah.
you define sin, how you define right and wrong. And what I realize as an adult living in the world is that who am I to impose my religious beliefs on someone else's body? And
Yeah.
so for me, speaking out so much is about, first of all, demystifying the kind of women that have abortions. I'm Korean American. I don't think when you imagine someone like whatever the talking points are on the far right. You don't imagine a Asian American woman talking about it. And it's so important for us to break the cycle of basically other people defining who we are to have these stories. And so that in a nutshell, I mean, I know that that's like I like just continue, I'm very passionate about the issue because I have an 8-year-old daughter, and it crushes me to feel like we can't provide the same kinds of freedoms for her, increasingly, and, it hurts my heart.
Yeah. Well, I do wanna hit on something you mentioned earlier about and I think this is very true. All of the circumstances around people needing to get an abortion are much wider than I think some people realize, like, endless circumstances that women find themselves in. But what they end up having to do, and you talked about this, is rationalizing the why. Like, where people almost judge, well, that's a good reason. That's not a good reason. And that's really the only healthcare scenario where people do that. What do you think is behind that? Because for me, it really bothers me because I think it's as simple as she felt she needed to get that, the end, period.
Yeah, and, what I like to remind people is that it takes 2. Sex
Yeah.
takes 2. There is always a man behind the scenario. Why do we always villainize the woman? It is not often that it's just again, it's a woman's body, so we ultimately have the choice, but, um, the arguments that are used against women, oh, the slut shaming. And so I see this unevenness in the way that men and women are treated in our society for the decisions that are made. I really just see it as a larger pattern of a male dominated society trying to control individuals. It seems this kind of pushback seems to arise at the moments in which we make as women the most advances in society, right?
Yeah.
It's like it is a reaction to the advances and the fights that we have made for ourselves over the decades. And the kind of um reversal of that is what we're living through right now. I keep on thinking we have to, as women, hold the line so that we don't get swept back too far in periods like this.
Yeah, I mean, it was shocking. I don't think anyone thought Roe v. Wade was gonna get struck down, and it did. Those things never go away. They just maybe go dormant for a while, and then when there's an opportunity, they come roaring back.
Yeah.
I heard
It's like an
something.
STD.
Yes, yeah, it'll come back to say
I'm kidding.
hello at the very worst moment.
I'm kidding. I'm thinking of the patriarchy like an STD that nobody can get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, really, can someone find a solution for patriarchy? That would be
Yeah.
amazing. Esther and I both grew up in Texas. In Texas, you're not pro-choice. You're just, like,
No.
not allowed. I think today it's more possible, but when we were younger, like, not happening. And then we've gone through a journey, and I am definitely very pro-choice today, and Esther's made her position clear. But something I heard, like, maybe 10 years ago, and I had never thought about it this way, and it makes a lot of sense, that the conversation around reproductive rights is really just to punish women for having sex because there's no option to help a woman take care of a baby if she's going to be a single mom. We're not taking care of that baby once it's born. It's really about controlling and keeping women under power and punishing them for having sex. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
And also keeping them at home, essentially, by not providing the safety nets and the network to have childcare, um, to have affordable childcare, right? Like, how many stories do we hear right now of women having to make hard choices between their career and the cost of childcare
Yeah.
because, women aren't also the wages haven't increased yet services like the cost of childcare. I mean, I was listening to a podcast where woman was like, I was working a full-time job and having, paying for childcare, and I was making $80 a month. you know, after all that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you make these really hard decisions. And again, I think it's really by design that they want to force us to carry, not give us the infrastructure or the support to pursue our lives, our dreams, our passions, our professions, right?
Yeah.
And we see that there is, especially as outlined in Project 2025, which is actually, I did a video about this, which is kind of amazing because there is this rise of trad wives, right, on the far left as far as influencers really making it seductive to a new generation of being
Yeah.
stay-at-home moms. And I don't think that there's anything bad about stay-at-home moms. For me, it's the way that society is designing our world for us so that we are forced to stay at home.
Right.
It's the lack of choice. It's
Right.
the choices that are taken away from us. Just like, what's happening with the choices that we have for our own reproductive care. It's mirrored in so many other ways in our society as really an assault against women and our ability to have choices.
Yeah.
And um another thing that I've been thinking a lot about in light of this choice. So in Project 2025, there's a section about how America is really falling behind on the birth rate.
Yeah.
And so, as an antidote, they are proposing, and this is literally like written out, they are proposing to eliminate federal assistant programs for grad schools for women heavy industries, right? So, like nursing is one of those. In Project 2025, it says women that go on to pursue higher education delay having children, and it is a problem for our society, so we'll just take away the mechanism for them to pursue higher education. And that's exactly what's happening right now. They
Yeah.
are rolling out and doing these things. These Grad Plus grants have been canceled for a whole host of industries that are women heavy. And it is, again, I don't think it's just an assault on abortion or a right to choose right now. It's an assault on our ability to self-actualize who we are.
Yeah, it's
That's
taking away
happening.
choices and options
Yeah.
and your ability to design the life that works for you. And really it says they don't, it's a lack of trust, it's a lack of it's patriarchy at its finest, I will say, because this is such an easy get. It's an easy get. You take away the right to choose. I don't know. It's just been I can't believe some of the rights that we've lost in the last few years. When you think things always move forward, but they don't. And they go backwards, and that's why you have to be vigilant and you have to get involved and talk about these things. Like it can't stay a
Yeah.
secret because
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what? We talk about this a lot on the show about a lot of the subjects we talk about. There's some element of shame involved in it.
Yeah.
Whether it's something you did or something that happened to you, or just something you feel because of society. I think abortion and reproductive rights carries a lot of shame with it, but it shouldn't. This is healthcare. These are decisions you made because it was the right decision for you. And removing
Yeah.
that shame gives you so much power, which is why it's great to talk about it. And I appreciate that you were talking about it because you know what? This isn't anything to be ashamed of. No matter what anybody else
Yeah.
says, it's nothing to be
Yeah.
ashamed of.
And I think it just takes voices that are insistent over and over again that this is not something that we should carry around as a burden of shame. And I do think it does help when you hear other people that are so unabashedly sharing it.
Yeah.
Um, and like we all have a choice right now. We all, again, are on this historical timeline headed towards no good.
Yeah. It's not
No good.
looking too great at the moment.
Yeah, it's literally like dystopian world is inverted, especially for women. I think it's especially hard for women like you and me, where we grew up not thinking that we had choice, and then we
Yeah,
like grew into an adult and like we're like, oh my gosh, there are choices out there for us. This is amazing. And then now all of a sudden seeing those choices taken away again,
yeah,
and you're like, what the hell is going on? Like I thought I was pushing ahead for the next generation. I thought we were doing all of these positive things to get to a better place. And it's so disorienting when we regress because the way that we think of capitalism, the way that we think of progress and the march of time, we are told this great lie that it's always towards a more fair, equitable place. But if you actually have a bigger view of history, you realize that in history, societies regress all the time.
yeah.
I mean, I think about Nazi Germany a lot because I studied the history of art in the 20th century, and I studied some of the most vibrant art movements in the beginning of the 20th century. It was like when Picasso started coming out. It was like literally like Cezanne, it was literally so many incredible breakthroughs and these communities that formed around the LGBTQ community and around celebrating out of the box thinking and weirdness and spiritualism and all of the things that reflect an enlightened society. And then you have Nazi Germany that came out of that, right? And then how they kind of snuffed and stifled
Lost
all
it
of
all.
that progress. And yeah, and like rolled it back. And though a lot of those people ended up fleeing to America. So we were great inheritors of that in an ironic way. And I am a byproduct of, again, like, I mean, this might be a good segue of why I think we could lose it is because generationally, my parents came from a place and my grandparents came from a place where it was already gone and they were fleeing that. And that was not that long ago. And so the fear of losing it feels so palpable to me. And the possibility of it being gone, again, being trained as a historian, I have seen the evidence that it happens. And so you look
Yeah.
out in your own timeline, the signs for the rollbacks, right? And once you start seeing the signs everywhere, you're like, "Oh my gosh, like I have to act. Like we have to do something right now on this like point in the timeline or else
Yeah.
like it just continues regressing."
Right. It's everyone's responsibility. And am curious about this because you and I also both were raised, a lot of people call it pro life. I use the word pro birth because I don't think you can say pro life when you are not helping them take care of the baby or the child after they're
Right,
born. Like, I
right.
don't think you can say that. And we are now pro choice. What happened in you where you were able to flip the switch?
Well, I got out of Texas, so that helped, I think, because again, I'm an older millennial, which means like the internet was kind of new to me in high school, right? I had a procreationist library at my school. Like we were writing science papers debunking evolution.
I know
This
that life.
don't you? I mean, it's
Yes.
wild that
Yeah.
that was like how we were fed
Whole courses in it.
information. Yeah, and like how the Earth is only 5,000 years old, and we know all those talking points. So I went to Yale for my undergrad, and I remember very clearly one of my essays was for college was where do you live and how does that define who you are? And I think most people would be like, well, I live in Dallas, Texas, and like they kind of go directly to the physical manifestation of where they live. And I wrote an essay that was like, I am conflicted about where consciousness lies. Does that reside within a soul that the Bible tells me? I was at a point where I was ready to shed the the stories that I was told of who I am
Yeah.
and what my purpose is here, and to figure out in radically different ways how to define myself. And I had an abortion at 21. I had graduated from college and I could not find a job in New York City. You graduate with an art history degree, do not plan on finding a job in New York City,
Good
okay?
luck.
It's like and so one of my first, like, jobs in the city was being a hostess at a sushi restaurant called Sushi Samba in the West Village, okay? And this is like I'm now dating myself. This is, like, very, like, 2000s in New York City.
For this place.
Yes. It was like a very, like, trendy place. It was like a Brazilian sushi restaurant, and, um so I was a hostess at Sushi Samba, and then I had a boyfriend for like my college boyfriend, and we were still together. And I was using this thing called the patch. I don't know if you remember, but it
I
was
do
like a
remember that. I
contraceptive.
think it was
Yeah.
prone to debacle, and that's why it's not
Yes.
used
Well,
anymore.
so I am like a witness to that. They have discontinued it for a reason, but I was on the patch, which was literally like a square band-aid thing that you put on yourself and it's supposed to feed estrogen into your body and blah, 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 and like regulate your cycle, all that stuff. Anyways, surprise pregnancy. It wasn't like we weren't practicing safe sex or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I realized I was making $24,000 a year. I don't think I was even making 20. It was like with
In New York
tips
City.
in New York City. And I was like, and I couldn't find a real, a job that I wanted, like my dream job, which was to work in a gallery at that time. I couldn't, it was out of reach to me. And I remember really being faced with like, do I survive this? Like there's nothing to help me through this. I wasn't going to go to my parents. Like I had just moved to New York City. I had so many dreams ahead of me of what I wanted to achieve. And having a child with $24,000 a year in your pocket, which is literally like nothing in New York City.
Yeah.
I was eating at the sushi restaurant, like
That's a
2
lot of
meals a day.
sushi. Do you
Yeah, I
still
was
like
eating
to
a
eat
lot of
sushi, or are you, like, done with sushi forever now?
I I luckily, I think I blocked that part of my
Yeah.
New York experience out of my mind, and I can still eat sushi, but, um, when you're surviving like that, people don't talk about the hard choices that women make when they're faced with this. Like the I haven't met a woman that is like, "Oh, I'm pregnant. I'm gonna go have an," it's like
Right.
nobody takes it lightly.
Yeah.
You really weigh on this. Both of my abortions were very early, so it was like before the first one was definitely like I would say 8 weeks, and then the other one was
Yeah.
at 5. It's like it's very early. But you make a decision for yourself, and that's obviously different from the decision I made when I was 41 because I already had 2 kids, and
Yeah.
we had done IVF, so we have I don't know how controversial this is, but, like, we have 5 other embryos on ice right now. It's really crazy because I think back to that moment where my husband and I looked at each other, and we know that for us, we've only wanted 2 kids, mostly
Yeah.
a boy and a girl. We got one of each. We were like, "We're done." But we're big environmentalists. For us, philosophically, we don't wanna overburden our footprint, like, on the world. And we're not the kind of people that are like, "I just want a lot of children, and I don't know how to explain it." Like, I know exactly why we just wanted 2. We
Yeah.
wanted just to replace ourselves and not overburden
Yeah.
anybody else or the world that we leave them with.
Yeah.
Again, we thought about that for a very long time. So when I found out, I was like, yeah, like this, we have a plan. And if and we have other embryos on ice. Like, I'm not saying that these are disposable things. The irony is so many people that want to wave their finger at you. I'm telling you, like, if you've gone through IVF, you're doing the same thing. You have embryo. You're making choices. Like this is like a lot of the population in Christian
Yeah.
society
You
that has
can't
gone
be
through IVF.
selective. Like,
You
it's too
can't be
convenient.
selective.
It's too
Yeah.
convenient. I mean, I will say I remember my switch was in college. I moved to Chicago. I guess if you move, this is highly possible. But I remember with my dorm, I had already started having conversations with my dorm mates about some of this, and I was like, "But it's life, you can't," and I was
Yeah.
so like binary about it. You grow
Yeah.
up as like black and white, yes or no. I think overall, I was confronted with the reality of when someone doesn't have access to abortion and the life giving that abortion can give. I was not familiar with it, because there were certain inputs that I was fed my entire life. And then I moved and I got new data. And I think I was confronted with the reality of it. And I actually switched because of a movie. My dorm mates and I, and this is like 30 years ago, and I don't think this is a spoiler. I think if you haven't watched this movie after 30 years, that's your fault. But they took me to see the Cider House Rules, which is about a doctor who provides abortions, safe abortions. They were not legal, but they are safe. And it talks about his life and all of those things. And there's a character whose father was assaulting her, and she became pregnant, and this doctor saved her life. metaphorically. She was not in danger of losing her physical life, but saved her life in terms of giving her abortion, moving on. And I
Yeah.
remember after the movie sitting there and thinking there and being like, yeah, why should she be having her father's baby? Like, why? Like, the reality of abortion is so different from what we are sold in the media and by Christianity
Mhm.
and patriarchy. Like, that conversation actually is not connected to the reality of what abortion actually is and the reasons why it's important.
Yeah, yeah. And it's literally child abuse again when you force a girl to carry her father's child, right? Like, you don't think about that. And it's interesting. So I'm running in a district right now, held by Republican incumbents that have voted against abortion, even in the case of rape and incest. Okay. This is in Southern California. This is why I'm like, this is not aligned with our values here.
Yeah.
Um, and also, ironically enough, voted against our access to contraception. Like, so, like, you don't want us to practice the
None of it
you
makes
like
sense.
literally none of it. Like, please help me make it make sense. Like, and these are both because I say both. So, like, basically after Prop 50, there are two districts, Republican districts that got merged into one, and now both sitting Congress people are running against each other, and they're both the same, right? So, but they're both in their 60s and 70s. Like, one is a white man, the other is like a elderly lady and who's like super Christian. And I'm kind of like, how dare you? You are not even in reproductive age. And you are trying to stand in my doctor's office, like trying to stop me from having control of my own body. Like, how freaking creepy is that?
Well, I
And
wish there was a screener test to be like, if you're going to take this stance, I want you to look at this diagram of a reproductive system and correctly name everything that's in there, and then maybe we'll listen to you.
y-
But a lot of times they have no idea how a woman's body works. And it's just like infuriating to have an opinion about something that you literally know nothing about.
yeah. And going back to that social media posting that I did, I think I got like maybe 1.7 million views, right? Like, I'm getting a lot of views on my social media and like thousands of comments. And one of
Yeah.
the main things that I find in the comments are women being like, "Thank you so much for speaking up. I had 3 children and I couldn't afford having a 4th."
Yeah.
Like, it's again, these are really hard decisions for women to make, and, um, why are you not addressing the reasons that we like, a lot of times women feel like they can't have children, the economic reasons. So many times it's economic, and what I'm realizing, is I did some research on how much it costs to raise a child. It's around $400,000 before college, okay? It's
I have
like,
twins.
and you're like, "What?" Like,
I'm gonna just forget that fact immediately after we stop talking today.
Um, but again, like, the cost of raising a child has become
Yeah.
unsustainable for us to have children. So, going back to why are you it's more of a tool to villainize women and to put women in their place than it is actually about raising human beings in a godly environment or in an environment that's sustainable and good for society, right?
Yeah.
And those are the contradictions that I really want the far right to confront and really deal with. And there's nothing that makes me more mad than seeing a man protesting against abortions or like a man telling us
Yeah.
what we can or can't do with our bodies.
Well, and again, it's all about the women. Like, it's their fault, and the idea of the second person that was involved in making that baby just is not relevant, apparently.
Literally, it cannot happen without another person.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
how
like,
is that person being held accountable? Sometimes you hear the phrase, well, don't have sex if you're not ready for the consequences. I get so angry when I hear that. I don't want to have to rationalize why someone chose to get an abortion. Like, it should be she needed to do it. She made that decision. It's her decision to make, the end. And so then you kind of step into an area of explaining all the scenarios because I really think, and it's intentional. I think it's intentional incompetence all of the different reasons that people get abortions. There are a million reasons, an
Yeah.
unviable pregnancy. She might die. There are horrifying uh, things that are wrong with the fetus where they're definitely going to die later, but then also it's just she's not ready. She's not ready to have
Yeah.
a baby.
Yeah.
Like it's the
Yeah.
whole gamut. And I just get so angry when someone's like, well, don't have sex if you're not ready to deal with the consequences. When we have a whole generation of men who also had sex,
Yeah.
and why aren't they dealing with the consequences? We're
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
where's that legislation to make
Yeah.
that happen?
And also, people that are having abortions aren't all 16 or 17 or whatever.
Right.
It's like
Yes.
you're like married, it's like
Yeah.
you have children already. You take precautions. Or you're 41 and you're like, maybe your body is a little old to have
Right.
children.
I don't like to admit it, but yes, I'm getting a
Well,
little
I
old
was
over here.
just thinking the other day, you'll relate to this because you grew up Christian, but like the story of Sarah,
Yeah.
and Abraham. Remember how like the whole thing about like she had a miracle birth and she was like really old in the Bible, and that was a miracle because she was old, and she was probably like 35,
I wonder how
honestly.
Sarah felt about this.
It's like, but if you think about really realistically,
Yeah.
she was 35.
Yeah.
It's like,
A
um,
crone.
like, but in biblical times, we shouldn't be having kids at
Yeah.
41. We should be dead. It's like, and so,
Yeah, and I do too think about, and I really appreciate you speaking about your abortion. And I'm not going to say everyone should do that, because it's your choice and
yeah.
you don't have to talk about it. But it does, I think, do a solid to other women out there to remove the shame from it. That shouldn't be there in the first place. But I'm not going to pretend like we don't feel ashamed about things that maybe we shouldn't. Like it's just human. I wish more people wanted to learn more about the reality of abortion, because I honestly don't think the pro birth side, I don't think they want to know. I don't think they're interested in the reality. And it's just being very attached to their idea. But it's not based on wanting to actually make a good decision based on actual data and real people.
That sounds like religion in general.
Yeah, I
It's
know. I just had a
um,
conversation with someone who escaped Christian patriarchy, fundamentalism, the whole thing, Tia
yeah.
Levings, who wrote the Well-Trained Wife, and she feels very strongly about it. She's like, there's all this discussion, and you were talking about this earlier. I don't think people know how bad it can be. They're trying to take us back to this life, and she's talking about that I escaped. It is bad back there. You're not gonna like it. And I think it does. It does hit differently for people that
Yeah.
have had an era where they didn't have rights, where it was very different. It's not a joke. It's not a game. And I think that's why people feel more passionately about it. I don't want to
Well,
go back there.
I mean, this is the thing that drives me crazy is that, like, when you're a liberal, you're not stopping other people from being conservative. We're not trying to create rules to stop
Right.
them from pursuing their vision of happiness or wholeness or what family is, right? So for me, it's the frustration of seeing that side though try to impose their ideologies on my body. Again, it's like it's an invasion of my private space. And I say to them, am I trying to invade your private space
Right.
right now? And they don't have an answer to that. Oh, well, yeah, maybe the DEI woke stuff. And you're like, what is that
I hate
exactly?
that.
Like, what is that? Can you articulate what I'm doing to impose on your life and the decisions that you make? Oh, well, um, the baker didn't want to create a cake for a gay couple. And I'm like, but that's literally not, it's not a gay couple trying to force you to be gay. Like,
Right. It's different.
like it's different. Like, just leave people alone. Like, why do you like
Can
it's
you
like so
imagine if that was your biggest worry? Like being told you need to make a cake for someone, and while other people are fighting for their lives and fighting for basic rights. It's like we should all be so lucky that that is your biggest problem.
that's what I'm trying to say. What they don't understand is how extreme they are in trying to push their worldview on other people when we're not doing that to them. It is a tactic. They are the tactics of a bully, and we have to draw a line and create a strong front and being like, my body, my story is not your story. I'm not trying to impose my liberal value, like my values on yours. Why are you trying to do that on me? And just
Yeah,
again, that's the difference between separating church and state. Why are you trying to bring your church into my situation here? Like,
right,
I don't identify with that church. My husband's Jewish. Why are you trying to impose that on a Jewish whatever it is.
right.
Like we all know people of different stripes and religions. How would you feel if like a Muslim majority wanted to impose on your body?
Well, the thing is, I don't think they see it that way. I remember in church we used to talk about it. And maybe this happened in your church as well. We are right, 100%. We are God's chosen people. We're correct. And so the idea, like if a Muslim majority in direct conflict with them were to, become a majority, they would see it as being put upon. But because they are right, they are correct, they are God's chosen people, it's okay if they do it. It's a one-way street, which I think is
Yes,
crazy.
which is the definition of bigotry.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people
I mean,
need to sit with that a little bit. Now, as we're moving towards the end here, there are just a couple things I wanna make sure to go over with you. One, and I think this is important to talk about, I think this is one of the biggest myths about abortion. Pro-birth adherents, I think that they say that making abortion illegal will make it reduce or go away, whereas we know from the data, access to contraception actually reduces abortion rates. Can you talk about that a little bit? We saw it in Ireland, the journey they've been on there, that abortion does not go away. It just becomes very dangerous. Just
yeah,
the same things happen, but in a dangerous manner.
yeah. So, I don't know how many like period movies you watch, or like even like Downton Abbey. Like
Oh,
someone
yeah.
dies from childbirth. You realize like once you start digging historically, before abortion was readily available, like women were dying all the time.
Yeah.
Um, Diet and childbirth thing was like very common. And I think it's important to remember that it is a form of preventative healthcare, often
Yeah.
for women. And the statistics of embryos not resulting, like not being formed correctly, there 1 in 7 embryos that are formed in a woman's body result in an abortion, like an aborted fetus, because the body doesn't reject it. We are imperfect biological beings, right? And once we realize the biology of even miscarriages, 1 in 7, again, results in a miscarriage, you start understanding the health implications of carrying, that there are a lot of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And the success rate that we see today is due to technological advances that we have, of screening, of I mean, I don't even wanna go into how many women have experienced miscarriages and they don't talk about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, women intuitively know that there are a ton of health risks in carrying a child, and, that's not even going into the financial the financial risk, but,
There are so many
um
big factors here.
there's so many factors that aren't being addressed in this conversation, and it is frustrating, like you said, that they make it so black and white when it isn't. There's so much nuance to this conversation. Like, you have to mix all of this data together to
Yeah.
get a fuller picture of why we have successful births today, because we people have to abort, or like all the time, for different reasons.
Well, I think 2 things. One, the rationale doesn't stand, that if you
Yeah.
make abortion illegal, it'll go away. It absolutely will not. It will continue at the same rate. More women will die. That's what happens.
Yeah.
This whole thing about, "Oh, well, we'll make it go away," is such a fallacy. That's not what happens. It just becomes more dangerous. But I think the second step is, I don't know that they care about the truth. And I will say too, because I can speak to this, I've had multiple miscarriages, and one, it wouldn't end. It was non-viable. It was done. It wouldn't end. I had to take, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Fiprestone.
Mhm.
That one, the one that starts with an M, that currently Congress is trying to get rid of it. I also had to have a DNC. And that's the thing. Abortion is healthcare. It's healthcare. And this whole simplistic idea of what it is for and what it does could not be more wrong. There's so many more reasons which brings us back to the beginning of you shouldn't have to rationalize your abortion or abortion care.
At the end of the day, it's if someone challenges you, it's none of their effing business, right? Like, it's my body, my choice. And
Right.
it's simple. It's actually really foundational to how we view democracy and like what this country is founded on. The individual liberties that we have, the right to pursue happiness, all of those things are wrapped into who we are as Americans. And it is actually like a byproduct of a lot of Enlightenment ideals um, that were often at odds with Christianity. But when our founding fathers founded this nation and wrote the Constitution, they wrote it in a way recognizing that the people that came here were often fleeing religious persecution, right? And they
Yeah.
realized that a lot of different people are going to come and make up the body of this nation. And they wrote it in such a sophisticated way based on Enlightenment ideals of individual actualization and right to fulfill happiness. And there was always a sense because the people that came here were fleeing religious persecution, which means other people were trying to impose their ideologies on these people's bodies and they fled, right? So
Right.
it's
It
like,
doesn't work.
it doesn't work. And then now they're trying to do that to other, like their neighbors. It feels totally against what we should stand for as a nation. I want to repeat that it is American, it is patriotic to insist that individuals have autonomy over their own bodies and to change that trajectory for the modern women is fundamentally un-American.
Yeah. I mean, this could not be more American that every person has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Exactly. I think we could actually use that as a platform to run. I
Oh,
mean, this is
great.
like
Okay, cool. I'm glad I could be helpful.
no, I love this linking patriotism with bodily autonomy with a
Yeah.
woman's right to choose is
Yeah, I
like
mean, the United States of America has 1000% got it wrong. The slave trade, like, there are so many instances of us getting it wrong. But if we're going to make that statement real, there are certain things that we need to do to preserve that. Now, as we're wrapping up, I have one last question for you. And this is a
sure.
personal question. It's a big question that I ask everybody. Sometimes I get funny answers, sometimes I get really profound answers, but it's always interesting. In life, what do you know for sure?
The pursuit of justice is never finished.
I like it.
I mean, that's yeah. I just think about that all the time. We're always headed towards a more perfect place. And it's messy along the way, but the journey is important. The pursuit is important. And that's really how I view everything that I do.
All right. So thank you so much for being here today, Esther. I so appreciate it. Where can people find you if they want to work with you, support your campaign, or hear more from you?
Sure, sure. I would love all the support that we can get. You can visit estherforcongress.org. You can follow me on my social media at Esther for Congress. As the name indicates, I am running for Congress. I care highly about our educational future for our kids, how we are going to think about going forward to live peacefully amongst each other with our different worldviews.
Thank you so much, Esther, for being here. And thank you to everyone who's listening to the Happily Never After today, especially those of you that are on your own journey. And two things that I like to say, these are great ways if you care about what's going on in the country today. There's two things you can do that are very simple. Vote with your dollars, but also vote on Election Day. We hope you all have a great week. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.